Welcome to Sexy Sunday, where we analyse sex scenes from films and TV shows, discuss what they tell us about the story, the characters, and more importantly, whether they're hot or not. I'm Jessica.
I'm Anushka.
And this is Sexy Sunday.
Today we're talking about Girls, which is an American comedy drama created by Lena Dunham, who also plays the main character in it. The series follows four entitled millennial friends in New York from 2012 to 2017 as they go about life, making pretty much all the worst decisions they can. It counts 6 seasons, and do you want to take a guess on the sex scenes?
Oh gosh, I want to say 30, but I feel like I'm under...
You're under by quite a lot.
Yeah, maybe 60? Let's go over.
You're a little bit over, yeah. I've counted 53.5. I gave it half a point because we see a couple of sex scenes of Adam and the actress who plays Hannah when Jessa and Adam make a film about Adam's relationship with Hannah. So it's sex scenes, but it's not actually the character of Adam having sex, it's the character of Adam playing a character of Adam having sex, which didn't really count, but then again, it's still like sex on my screen, so I feel like it counts a tiny bit. It's kind of like in Boogie Nights when we counted the sex scenes from the actual porn films that they were making, but it wasn't the characters having sex.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, 53-ish.
I mean, that makes sense.
For 62 episodes. That's quite good going.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense because it is like that kind of raunchy-esque show that's like stripped back, kind of millennial-esque.
Yes, exactly. I remember the very first time I watched it, I was like, there has never been a show that made me want to have sex again less in my entire life.
I know! It's like all of the sex scenes, like pretty much all the sex scenes are incredibly awkward. At first I was like, oh, it's really great that the characters, especially the female characters, are kind of communicating their needs. But at the same time, it's like, that just makes it very uncomfortable and they often talk themselves out of sex. It's not enjoyable to watch because you're just like, okay, stop.
Yeah, so I was thinking, should we do it like character per character, like with the 4 girls?
Yes. Also, I realized this when I just like kind of looked up some stuff on like IMDb and things. All their names, all the girls' names are alliterations.
Oh.
So Hannah, her surname is an H. Marnie, her surname is an M. Shoshanna, her surname is an S, and Jessa, her surname is a J.
Oh, fun. Should we start with Shoshanna?
Because she has, like, the least amount of sex scenes, I would say.
I actually think it's between us and... it's definitely between us and Shoshanna, the amount of sex scenes that's like... we don't have many either. Yeah. No, I think it's between her and Jessa for some reason, even though you would assume Jessa would have the most, but she actually... I mean... Jessa might have some more, but Shoshanna, we do see... I guess we see her less in the show in general.
Definitely. Like, I feel like, especially towards the mid-season when Shoshanna's in Japan, she sort of fades in and out a lot more.
Yeah, definitely.
Which, by the way, I love Shoshanna in Japan.
Oh, she's so belongs there.
She does. She really does.
Obviously, in terms of a relationship to sex, it's a very interesting one because obviously she starts off as a virgin, trying to sleep with that guy who's saying that he doesn't want to sleep with her because she's a virgin, which I'm like, I get it, but also you're part of the problem. Like, if you don't, if everyone says the same thing, she's going to stay a virgin until she's like 68.
It's like when you want to get an entry-level job and you're like, you need to have a few years experience.
It's just not, someone has to be the first one to do it.
Yeah. But I did, like, the guy that, I think his name Matt, that Shoshana, that he's like, oh, I don't want to have sex with you if you're a virgin. I have such a crush on him.
Really?
He was in Pitch Perfect. Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And he's also in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which I'm getting into musicals, Anushka.
Oh no.
Who am I? Who am I anymore? Like, I've been watching it so much that when I started watching Girls and there'd be like a musical bit just in the background, I just expect there to be like a musical number.
Oh my god, out of all the shows on Earth, Girls is probably the one where I would expect it the least to have a musical number in.
I was just expecting it. Anyway, he's also in it and I find him very attractive.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, clearly so did Shosh.
I would say she's got good taste, but Shosh has questionable taste.
She's got like they all have all over the place taste.
Yes. And I know we're going to get onto Ray soon, but oh my god, how does Ray manage to sleep with so many of the girls?
Yeah, I guess it's because they evolve in the same circle. I think it's one of those things
Yeah.
where it's like they just hang out. Like with Shosh, I get it because I think it's realistic that that he's the first guy that she gets with,
Mhm.
and that she dates. And then I think it's also realistic that she breaks up with him.
Yes.
Like I think that it made sense that she was gonna go for someone older with like obviously more experience. I guess everyone has more experience than her at this stage, but I think it's like that kind of not reassuring, but Ray's more of a he appears like more of an adult just because he's grumpy and older, but then actually in
Yeah.
their relationship, he was almost less of an adult than she was.
Yes.
His life was just a bit messy, like he hadn't figured it all out yet. And she's the one who's helping him after they break up and they become friends. She's really the one who's figuring it all out for him, which is really nice.
Yeah. And I really like that scene where she comes to realize that he's actually living with her because she's like, no, he just
Yeah.
stays a few nights like this night, and then she's like, oh my god, you're living with me? What?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
He's a
but I
bit,
think
yeah.
it definitely does make sense because he's also not a threat. Like he's just there. So it definitely does make sense, and also, as you say, makes sense that she breaks up with him, especially for someone like she cheat. It's not clear when she says she held their doorman's hand whether she means like she held his penis. That's what my brain went because I was
I
like,
mean, they are kissing quite vigorously when we see them. So I don't know that she slept with him, but that's definitely I wouldn't be surprised if they did foreplay.
exactly. But it does make sense that she also like cheated on him because Ray is just like, especially in the early. Well, I guess he's always grumpy,
Yeah,
but
but
even
I feel like he puts his grumpiness to better use in the later seasons. Like in the first few seasons, I feel like he's just annoyed at life, whereas in the later seasons, thanks to Shoshanna, he's actually like channeling all of that into something practical. So it's a little bit different and it's more bearable.
yes.
I think with Shoshana, the thing is she never really seems that into the sex she's having. And I think it's because with her
Mm-mm.
personality, she's constantly scheming. So like, she's constantly scheming to like
Mm.
have like better like friends in better places, have a better job, have like whatever. I think she's kind of the same with boys. Like at first she's scheming to like lose her virginity, but that doesn't work. And then she's kind of scheming to like make that really stupid guy her boyfriend.
Oh my
And
god.
like,
When when they're having sex and she's just like,
yeah,
uh,
we should
try-
now that we're boyfriend and girlfriend, we should see each other no less than 4 nights a week. And I think even when she's breaking up with Ray, she's constantly like, I don't get a feeling that she's having sex with loads of people because she wants to as much as because she's feeling like she needs to be free because she's young and now she's having sex, which is the first time that she can do this. So I think she's very much not being herself and not like letting go. And then
Mm.
I wonder if maybe the first time she is being herself is with the guy she meets in Japan that she really, really likes. But obviously, we don't have any sex scenes with them, so I don't know.
Which I was really upset with because firstly, very cute man,
So
very, very
cute.
cute man. And I feel like you could tell they had really good chemistry. And I
Yeah.
feel like, especially when she went through her like slut era, which I am all
It's
here
so
for.
good. It's so good.
So good, so good. The fact that she doesn't graduate on time as well, I'm just like, oh, shush. Like, we've been there. Like, no, maybe not to that extreme, but we've been there. But like when she's going through the like I'm just gonna sleep around era, it's kind of like, okay, this is what I need to get out of my system. I'm not a virgin anymore. I'm out of my
Exactly.
relationship. Whereas with that guy, she was very much like, no, there's actually something. I actually really quite
Yeah.
like this person.
Yeah, because again, with Ray, I think it was like he was the right person at the right time. Now, I'm not saying that she didn't actually love Ray or really like him, but obviously their personalities were so different. I don't think they connected in the same way
No,
as she connects with the guy in Japan, whose name I completely forgot.
me too. To be fair, I'm bad with names. So And I really like, even though that scene where they're going out in Japan, it's her technically her last night, and
Yeah.
they go to that like sex dungeon
Yeah.
place, that he's like very protective over her,
Yeah.
and is just like, no, you don't have to do what you don't want to do, but she kind of still feels pressured into it. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I'm sad that we didn't get to see any sex scenes, because I feel like
Yeah.
I wanted to see some of Shosh's like just like better conquests,
Mm.
because there's just so much awkward sex in this show.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we move on to Jessa?
Oh, Jessa. Yes, let's move on.
So I think Jessa clearly sees sex as a fun thing to do, which is
Hmm.
fairly obvious, and also tracks with her personality. I think she's just as playful as you would expect her to be when she has sex.
Yes.
And that's what Adam, in the episode where Adam and Hannah get back together for an episode, which I absolutely hate.
I don't know
Um,
why he gets back with her. Him and Jessa, just like I feel like their personalities. Like when I first started seeing when Hannah goes to Ohio, and then I first start seeing Jessa and Adam interact.
yeah,
I'm like, oh god, chemistry here. They're
I
gonna get
know,
together. I'm
I
like, they
know,
need to.
I know.
Yeah, because I think it's the first time you see her being like a bit vulnerable. Like especially, I love when they first have sex,
Like,
and
is this what
it's
bad sex is like? That's so funny.
Yeah, but then she lies down on his chest, and like they're in that little love cocoon, and I was like, I haven't seen her kind of display that vulnerability to,
No.
because when you see her having sex, it is for her to have fun, but I feel like it's also for her to feel something.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I think in the same way as Adam says to Hannah when they're dating, is like sex was a replacement for alcohol. For alcohol. For, for alcohol.
alcohol.
How many H's in alcohol? Uh, I feel like Jessa, obviously just as a drug addict, and I think she definitely has sex for entertainment and to keep herself
Mm.
busy, like, because she's bored.
Yes. Oh, when she's going through like this her first sober stage, and she's just like so bored. It's like I
Hmm.
kind of felt that on such a visceral level of just like kind of going through that boredom of, you're just out of uni, you're trying to find a job and nothing, you
Yeah,
can't find anything, and you're just like, I'm so bored.
yeah,
I don't know how to deal with my boredom.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, I'm a strong believer in you don't touch your friends, boyfriends, or ex-boyfriends.
Hmm.
But I am such a Jessa and Adam fan. I love them
Same.
together. But I can't remember whether I actually mentioned them in our Will They Won't They episode. But I actually think they did fuck up a bit with them. I think the build up was much better than their relationship.
Yeah, because I feel like their build up obviously was that friendship, a genuine friendship
Yeah,
and genuine care that they had for each other, but also their personalities meshed so
match
well
so
together.
well. Yeah,
Like, I think because Adam is just so off the wall, weird, and like playful as well, and that's like, and can be really flighty.
yeah.
And that was like the same with Jessa. But then when they did get together, it was just like, oh, and we've got to have drama.
I
We
hate the episode where they break their entire flat. Like, we get it, they've got fiery personalities, but this is not why we like them together. I actually think that, like, my favorite, apart from when they're flirting and he keeps on trying to, like, get with her, but she's obviously wanting to, but she says they can't, and they spend the whole day together, etc. Apart from that, my favorite episode is when she's introducing him to her sister, and she's asking for money to her sister to go and study psychology. And her sister's like, no, because you're not a serious person or whatever. And Adam's like, fuck this. Like, I'll give you the money. Like, I believe in you. I think you're gonna do great. And I was just like, this is so nice. This is the Adam and Jessa we want, where they actually help each other grow and become better
Yeah.
people instead of they're breaking their entire flat because they're just kind of like that, aren't they? Like, I just don't like this. I feel like they kind of fell in the trap of making them
Yeah.
cliches of themselves.
100%. And then I also didn't understand why then they had to make the movie, because that just seemed like just to put in to create drama
Yeah,
between Jessa and Adam so that Hannah could step in again, which
definitely.
it just didn't make sense. And because Hannah is so self-involved with herself, like it's every time you see her having conversations with people, it's always about herself, that you're like, okay, I get why you need to really put that distance between you so that you can like make this choice for yourself in terms of Adam, because it's also like her and Adam just weren't good together. It
No.
was sort of forced together. And if Hannah could come out of her own bubble and sort of see how Jessa and Adam got could like had good chemistry, like yeah, it would be painful still to see your ex with your friend, but you could be happy for them. But as you say, because they don't have any foundation of friendship, it's just that kind of friendship of convenience that you have with people that you were kind of squashed together with at university.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like, oh, we were friends once, so I guess that's gonna last forever. And actually, they're all very different, moving into very different places. Like, it's just not, which I think is an interesting thing to talk about in a TV show. Because obviously, they all love each other, but again, they love each other by default, and they're not actually interactions and their everyday life. It's like, do you love each other? Because you're kind of shit to each other all the time. But I do think
Exactly.
it's quite an interesting topic to explore. But yeah, I think I'm not upset about Jessa and Adam doing this to Hannah because I'm like, none of your relationships with Hannah are worth saving. So
No.
if it's
Uh,
gonna go because of that, it's gonna go because of that. It's fine.
Definitely.
That episode where Adam gets back together with Hannah
Yeah.
made absolutely no sense because to me they had closure when they have their conversation after his sister's baby is born. And I'm so glad that Hannah wasn't like, yeah, okay, let's get back together because that would have made no sense
Yes.
and that would have been so frustrating. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. And their relationship was doomed anyway. Like, I really, really, really feel for Hannah the entire time he's starting at Broadway
Mhm.
because I totally get that horrible dual feeling of she's so proud of him and she's genuinely happy for him. And I think they did a good job at showing that she's really happy for him and not just her
Yeah.
saying it, but you can see it. But also being really freaked out. And to be fair, he does give her really good reasons to be freaked out because he's moving out, because like he's very distant with her. And it's like, I get that Hannah is a lot of work and drama, but also
Yeah.
she's your girlfriend. Don't date her if you don't want the like if you don't like her and her personality doesn't work for you, then date someone else. You can't just have the good sides of her when you want to and ignore the bad sides. That's not what it's like to be in a committed
Exactly.
relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And like when he's on, I think when he's on Broadway, it brings out the worst in their relationship.
Yeah,
Like it almost goes back to when they were first like
exactly,
dating, when
exactly.
he can call on her whenever he wants, and she'll just be
And she's just
there.
this insecure person who's just like trying to do everything she can to hold on to him.
Exactly. Like and at a detriment to her own like both mental health and like just her own dignity.
Yeah.
Like I get what she was trying to do when she was like doing the whole role play thing, but
Oh, for sure.
there was no parameters there. They didn't have
No.
any like it was just like sprung on him because he was like it's like that last ditch attempt to save it, which obviously just ended up pushing him further away. Um but yeah, it's like you I think they did do I agree with you. They did a really good job of kind of showing like yes, she genuinely cares for him, but like this is a toxic relationship that's doomed to fail. And I also noticed this with a lot of the characters, like with their relationships, is that they'd so many of them would just suddenly have these explosive arguments. Like I don't know if you noticed that as well, where they just be like randomly talking and then just be like suddenly it's a huge argument, but then they go back to normal. It's just like,
Yes,
guys,
very much so.
I was like, I get your parents are really quite dysfunctional, but also
Yeah.
this is very dysfunctional.
I do wonder if that's a way to show how close they are, though, because they're always saying that, like, I know that in Weeds, that's something that happens a lot when Nancy is with her sister, and they would be absolutely horrible to each other, and then they'd have a really, like, mundane conversation about, like, oh, this cake is really nice. Where did you get it from? And it's like you were calling each other dickheads like 5 seconds ago. And I
Mm.
think that's something that really happens in families and people that are unconditionally close to you because whether you want it or not, they're never going to stop being in your life. Even if you never speak again, they're gonna still be your sister, basically.
Yeah, I know. I see what you mean because it is very much like um, they they're sort of the friends of convenience, that kind of family. Like they
Yeah,
have like these close ties to each other, even though they don't get along. It's like almost an obligation of friendship that it does make sense that they would then, like, after such a terrible argument, come back together. And it just adds to their dysfunction as
Yeah,
a friend
exactly.
group.
Exactly. Which is, already so dysfunctional anyway.
So dysfunctional. Side note, I love Ethan. I love that Ethan comes back into the show.
Do you mean Elijah? I want to know who Ethan is. It sounds great.
No, I don't know who Ethan is. It's who I've assumed Elijah has been this whole time.
I mean, he kind of looks like an Ethan, I get you.
Yeah, and they both begin with E. Let's go with that. Um,
Yes, I love Elijah. He's great.
he's so
He's
great. And it's also kind of funny him and Hannah's kind of, obviously they dated and then they're like still quite intimate together.
Yeah, so intimate.
Yeah, especially when they have a full on like make out in front of Fran.
In front of Fran.
And I'm like, stop it! Fran has done nothing wrong.
Okay, I get Fran is like definitely deserves better than Hannah, but Fran also wanks off to pictures of his ex-girlfriends.
Okay,
Like,
true.
I'm sorry, but Fran's not perfect.
You have a really good point there. That was so weird that he doesn't see that that's weird that he
And
has.
no one else does. And I was like, all of you people on drugs.
It's like like that's not material for you for later. That was during that container of our relationship.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is very weird.
Exactly, it's super weird.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I love how she's flicking through his phone and there's like at least 6 different naked girls on it. And it's like, did Fran just like date 6 models and then dated Hannah? Like, what is going on? But I do love with Elijah and Hannah, I love that the first time they see each other again, they're like running meeting at this bar because she has to ask him about HPV. And she thinks that they're potentially going to sleep together again. And he tells her that he's gay. And then he tells her, your dad's gay. And she's
Yes.
like, my dad's not gay. And he's like, he's got a knee stud. And she's like, he got it on a trip with his male friends.
And she's like, I know how this sounds.
And obviously her dad that is gay. And it's just so great that in the first, the second episode or whenever it is that we meet Elijah, he literally tells her this, and then we don't find out about her dad being gay for like 4 seasons.
Yes.
That's so good.
It's so good. And I love when Elijah comes back at her being like, I told you so.
I told you he was gay. And she's like, you think everyone's gay? But yeah, I love this so much. But you know the episode where Hannah's grandmother dies? Like, so she goes to the hospital, her grandmother's really unwell, and then her grandmother's doing way better. Everyone leaves, and then she dies. Adam's coming to the hospital, and Hannah's mom, when he leaves, is like, are you sure you want to be with him? Basically, he's really weird. And Hannah's like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. And then her grandmother's doing better, and Hannah says to her, like, I'm so glad the doctors were wrong, because the doctors were like, she's probably going to die. And her grandmother says to her, like, yeah, people aren't always right. And literally 5 minutes later, Hannah's in the street thinking her grandmother's great and the doctors were wrong, and then her cousin calls her to say like grandma died, which proves that the doctors were right. And I guess it's like it puts in Hannah's mind the idea that maybe her mom is also right about Adam, which I really, really like because it's not super obvious.
Yeah, because they have like dropped those little clues throughout the way, and also her saying, oh, I guess or being proved that actually the doctor's right. It's like she does get proof that her mum's right because her and Adam do not suit each other.
Exactly.
And she does end up being like the one to kind of socialize him.
Yeah. Which I think Adam's definitely got the best evolution, maybe with Ray. Which is funny in a show called Girls about 4 girls that the characters who grow the best are the 2 guys. And Elijah. Which to be fair, Elijah also has quite a nice evolution, but less so. He stays more like true to himself.
Yes. I was sad when he slept with Marnie and then he had to go because I was like, no, I was really enjoying you in the show, but I was really glad when he came back. Because I was like, he just adds like a really fun element.
He really does.
You're so right because it's like with Hannah, she just gets more narcissistic and like
Hannah gets worse, 100%.
I had to skip through most of her scenes when she was in Ohio because she was insufferable. And then Shosh, I guess Shosh has quite an interesting evolution.
Yeah, but Shosh, I feel like goes more full circle. Like I feel like she starts off being
Mm,
this really serious, career-driven person. Then she loses her way a little bit, and then she kind of ends up back to where she wanted to be, and more like she doesn't really hang out with the girls anymore. She
true.
does evolve, but it's almost like she goes back to her roots.
True. Marnie is just a hot mess.
Marnie definitely declines. Like to think that the first episode she's like she's working in a gallery, she's got her long-term boyfriend, she's like her whole life is like so picture perfect, and obviously it wasn't perfect, it's not what she
Yeah.
wanted, but on paper it really was, and then she just like ends up cheating on her boyfriend that she doesn't love with her ex-husband who's a drug addict. Like it's just like, no, you're not ending in a good place.
No.
uh,
No, no, no. Absolutely not. And then
Well, I would
Jessa?
say Jessa evolves for the better, but I guess her decide like I think they kind of ruined her with the last season. I think they should have stopped when she does decide to get with Adam, but she kind of makes a clean break from Hannah and she decides to become a therapist. I think that was a really interesting evolution for her. I did like one thing with Jessa is, in the second episode when she's pregnant and they're all waiting for her to abortion, but she's late to her own abortion.
Yeah.
She walks into a bar and she like makes out with this guy, and her period comes while she's like mid-sex with this fairly attractive guy. Um, they shot exactly the same scene, her walking in the street, smoking a cigarette, walking into the exact same bar. In the episode where Adam goes back with Hannah, and she goes into the
Oh,
toilets and like starts making out with this random guy, but then she starts crying and she's like, no, because I don't want you. And that
yeah.
was a nice way to show her evolution, I guess. Is like she's not that girl anymore who's
I
just
guess
going to
so.
like pretend like she doesn't have like ignore her problems by going to have random sex in a bar with some guy in the toilet. That doesn't work anymore.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do really like that it exposes her vulnerabilities when she's like really trying to get into it, and you can tell she's like really trying to like harness that past Jessa, and then she's like, I can't do this with you.
Yeah, exactly.
She doesn't go through with it. I also am very glad she didn't have sex with Richard E. Grant's character.
Me too.
Oh my god, I'm so
Me
glad they didn't
too.
go there.
Regarding Hannah, I think it's interesting because kind of similar to Shoshanna, which I think you said at the beginning, she's never really like herself in sex either. And I wonder if it's because she's a writer where she's constantly in her own head and analyzing the situation, and also
Mm.
kind of like, because I think there's a lot of things that she does just for the story because then she can write about it and like, sell an article. Like when she does
Yeah.
cocaine, which I absolutely love the episode
Oh my
where
god,
her
I
and
love that
she did
episode so
cocaine.
much.
It's so good.
That is, it's such a good episode.
It's so good. But I feel like when she's having sex, she's kind of almost thinking about how she's going to write about it more than actually being in it, unless she's having sex with Adam at the start, where it's not so much that she's out of her body because she's thinking about it in terms of a story. It's more she's out of her body because she's thinking about it in terms of like, I'm having sex with Adam, I need to cater to what he wants and blah, 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 because she's
Yeah.
not, in it for herself, really.
Like when she gives Ray a blowjob, I'm like,
Oh
what
my
are
God,
you?
I hated that so much.
Me too. Like that really felt like for the story of her like going into this kind of mental breakdown to then stoop really low because all her stories seem to be of like that really grimy
Yeah.
underside of her having sex, and then also her having sex with Jess's stepbrother.
Oh my God, I thought that was hilarious because she's going on that like not road trip, but like they're in the car or whatever, the four of them, and then I love that she thinks her and Jessa that's what they're doing. Like I love when Jessa's like, "Did you think that was like some kind of weird sex escapade?" And she's like, "Yeah, I thought that was fully a sex escapade." And like, I love that she's literally having sex with him because she thinks Jessa's having sex with his friend, and
Yeah.
like this is what we're doing. Like almost she's doing it more for her friendship with Jessa so that they're sharing it, and like it's a fun thing that
Yeah.
we did that night more than because she fancies the guy, because she doesn't really
She
fancy him.
doesn't. No. Or and like I also always see her when she like when because she has a lot of sex, but
Yeah,
not a lot of sex that she seems to enjoy.
no.
That it's just more for her to be like, all right, I kind of tick that off,
Yeah.
or that was what was expected of me.
Well, she says, I think there's a point where she says, like, if anyone's like nice to me, I feel like I have to give them a blowjob. Like, has sex with anyone who's nice to her. I mean, she literally has sex with Laird because he looks after her when she takes cocaine.
Yeah. I liked with her and Fran is like you only in my watch I only saw like a couple of sex scenes with them. You could really see their disconnect
Yes.
because he was always clothed and she sometimes was
Yes.
naked but sometimes was only topless. And I thought that was really interesting because it was like there was no intimacy between them. It was sort of just he was her placeholder because of Adam. And I think their sex scenes really displayed that and really displayed how they weren't
I
suited for each
agree.
other at all.
I agree completely. Even with Adam, they're still disconnected. Apart from maybe when they're having sex, when they're actually a couple and they're not catering to, like, it's not Adam being like, let's role play that I found you in the street and you're an orphan with like limbs missing anymore. And it's more like just you're my girlfriend and we're having sex. And that's maybe the only times they seem a little bit more connected. But even then, I don't think Hannah still, like, she doesn't really look like she might enjoy it in the same way as like Jessa enjoys it, for example.
No, no, she definitely doesn't. And I think what's really interesting is like with Adam and her relationship and their evolution is it sort of starts backwards. That
Mm,
they are very experimental in the beginning, and then when they're in like a committed relationship, it's a lot of missionary sex. It's a lot of
yeah,
obviously that's when she like steps in and tries to do all the role playing,
yeah,
and it backfires.
yeah,
But it is really interesting that you sort of see how it sort of dulls down their sex and their intimacy, which sort of bleeds into their relationship.
exactly. Whereas with Jessa, they're doing this whole thing where she's like, she's just as playful in that way as
Yes.
he is. And like, I always love it when she's like, just pretend like you meant to pull out, but you
Yeah.
didn't. And then she's like, oh, what are my parents gonna say? And he's like, what am I gonna tell Coach?
Yes.
I'm just like, you guys, of course you belong together. You should be together
Yes.
forever.
I think that was the scene as well where I was like, yes, you guys have done this right. It feels so
So
like
right.
so right, so authentic. The fact that he can just like play off of it, and
Yeah.
she's just there being like, "Fuck yeah, this guy is like we're on the same wavelength."
Compared to like in the early episodes of season one when he's having sex with Hannah and he's like, yeah, but from now on you need to call me if you want to come. And she's like, you
Yeah.
want me to call you? I love it so much. I just find it
Yeah.
really funny. Should we go on to Marnie?
Yes.
So, what I love is the fact that Marnie is super prudish, but she's probably got the most sex scenes, really. Or at least she's got the most like explicit ones.
Oh yeah, like when
Daisy.
Desi is like eating her butt, like just full on, just like
Well, thank you for this reenactment, Jess. I'm so
you're
glad I
so
was able to
welcome.
see it.
I do parties and corporate meetings.
Great, great to know for our listeners.
Hire me.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting seeing the difference between the sex she had with Charlie in the first season,
Mm,
and whenever she has sex later with different people, and also Charlie, because obviously they have sex several times again.
yes.
And I feel like she's basically become first season Charlie to those people. Like in the first season, she's having
Mm,
sex with Charlie, who she doesn't love anymore. She doesn't want to have sex with him, and he's super desperate and needy. And then everyone she has sex with since, she's the desperate, needy one. Whether
yes.
she's desperate because she's way more into the person than they're into her, like with Jonathan or like Daisy at first when he's got his
Hmm.
girlfriend and she loves him and blah blah, or she's really desperate to be liked, like she really needs their approval and validation. Like even
Yes.
Ray, every single time she has
Yes.
sex with Ray is because she's having a bad time. She does not care about Ray. She's not actually that
No.
attracted to him. She just constantly goes to him whenever she's like, Desi doesn't love me. I feel like shit. Everyone thinks I'm an idiot. Like she just constantly goes to Ray. She's
Yes.
just becoming such a desperate person, and she's basically Charlie.
That's so true. I also find it so interesting when she goes after Ray, how he dumps her
Yeah, same.
because of her neediness and because he's also like, I don't want to just have sex. Like I want to have
I
something
want a
like
girlfriend.
exactly. Like I find it so interesting that she kind of goes from this like because Marnie is objectively hot. I don't think I
Yeah,
find her that attractive, but she's objectively
she's
hot.
super pretty. She's super pretty. She's
Yeah,
got a great body. Like she's yeah.
exactly. But she's deeply insecure and deeply needs that validation. And it's just so interesting that like Ray being that safe bet is actually not that safe bet
Yeah.
because he pushes her away. Like especially after Charlie, but even like when they break up and then she in season 2, he's hot in season 2.
He's
Like
very hot. I agree.
season 1 Charlie, no.
Not so
Season
much, yeah.
no. And even like season 5 when he's back in.
Yeah, in a very different way. But he is,
Yes.
well, he's so self-assured. But he's changed so much. It's so funny because I was reading an article with the actress, and she was saying that it was basically her and Marnie hadn't seen the actor who plays Charlie, and Marnie hadn't seen Charlie in the same amount of time because he
Mm.
left the show really like abruptly.
Yes, because like the end of season 2, Marnie and Charlie seem like
Yeah.
they're going to get back together, and then so all of, like I thought I'd missed an episode. But what I find really interesting about like Marnie's choice of men is that they tend to be these like quite emotionally distraught men that she can't quite deal with. Like fucking Desi. Desi is so annoying.
Yeah. I
Like
yeah. I think the biggest disappointment is for her to go back to him after their divorce. I'm just like, oh, this is not even fun. Marnie is fucking up again. This is just like making me roll my eyes.
exactly. And like well, I just like their sex doesn't seem like it's good as well. Like I think the only time when it's kind of like I guess it's sort of intimate is when he's cheating on
Clementine.
Clementine. That was it. I knew it was began with a C, but I couldn't remember the whole name. Uh, and then that's the only time their sex is hot, and then it's almost like yeah, Marnie can't handle who Desi actually
No.
is.
They're having quite hot sex, like up against the wall, but then listening to their own song.
Yeah. Well, that kind of
Amazing.
seems a bit narcissistic to be like,
Yep.
I don't know.
But that's who they are, all of them.
Yeah.
All right, what's your least favorite sex scene of the TV show?
Oh my God. I feel like Marnie and Elijah just because actually it's kind of hard to think because there's been quite a few. What's your one? Do you have one?
I do have one. I just want to say, I found it interesting that you say maybe Marnie and Elijah's because I actually really love their sex scene. I feel like it's not very nice to watch, but it's so realistic in a good way. I think of like that they're
Yeah.
both feeling a bit sad and confused about things, and they're just like, I can just see it happening. Like I'm not surprised that it happened. It didn't feel forced to me. Like they're both drunk and a bit like having a bit
Lonely.
of a wobble and very lonely. And I love how they go from pure lust to we're not actually into each other. What are we doing in like a split second?
Yes.
Because I think that's what would happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, I think that's why I kind of like took it back a little bit because it was like it made so much sense for what was happening at the time. It felt very realistic, especially them suddenly being like, "What the fuck are we doing?" And stopping. But I think it just was so uncomfortable to watch.
No,
Uh,
that's fair.
that yeah.
For me, it's Natalia and Adam. Like when he's drunk,
Oh,
that was really uncomfortable to
that
watch.
was so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Oh, when he like comes on her chest. Oh, that made me.
yeah.
That was really uncomfortable. Yeah.
Especially because seeing what Adam has been like with her since they've met, and he's not like that. And then he obviously gets drunk because he sees Hannah. And you can tell that he's being a completely different person. Like he's not himself. Ugh, that really, that really creeps me out. The feeling of you know who the person is and you can tell they're not being themselves in that moment, but there's nothing
Yeah.
you can do to snap them back to themselves. I found it really like unnerving.
I agree.
What's your favorite one?
It's definitely like one of the Adam and Jessa sex scenes. Like I think even I know it's not a full sex scene, but even when they're like masturbating together and she's like, told you not to look at me, told you not to look at me, and then they end up looking at each other to like finish. But I do really like the scene where as well where we talked about where they like role play and they like because they just have so much fun. And even when like Ray comes back into the apartment and they're like, she's just like naked on the sofa, just eating yogurt. There's just so much of it. Like I really enjoy them together.
Yeah.
What about you?
I do like the ones of Adam and Jessa, but weirdly, my favorite ones are Marnie and Charlie.
Oh,
My real favorite one is it's in the same episode as the one of Adam and Natalia that I hate actually. Um, it's when Marnie sings Stronger at Charlie's work thing, which is just the worst thing ever.
oh, I had to skip through it.
I know,
It was
it's so cringe.
too much
So
secondhand
cringe.
embarrassment.
It's horrible. And then he takes her into his office and is like having a go at her basically. And while they're like arguing, they start kissing and they have sex on his desk. I just found them really, really hot. I just found it really hot that it's like during the party, everyone's there. She's like, what if someone comes in and it's like, who gives a fuck? I feel like it's the first time we see Charlie not being like the pathetic, like having sex, barely moving and being like, oh my God, this feels so good. It's like, oh no, wait, he knows how to have sex. Like he knows what good sex is.
Yes.
And then I think before that, they're at Jessa's wedding when Jessa gets married at the end of season 1.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and his girlfriend's not here, but him and Marnie are talking, and they're kind of like making a joke of like, yeah, well, we're just gonna go have sex right now, and he's like, yeah, I'll just put you up on the sink, and like, I'll just lock the door with my foot or whatever he says, like I can't remember, and she's like, yeah, and you'll put your hand on my mouth so I don't make too much noise, and it's like, yeah, and blah blah blah, and I'm like, this is hotter than any of the sex.
Especially any of their season 1 sex.
Oh, their season 1 sex is not. It's not it.
I was quite happy when they got together.
Same.
So I was a bit upset. Obviously, he left the show for his own reasons.
No, me too. I wonder where Marnie's storyline would have gone, because obviously her whole storyline is just like being an absolute mess for most of it. And if it stayed, I really wonder how they would have, because they wouldn't have wanted Marnie to have just a perfect life, because that wouldn't have fitted in with the show. So I wonder what kind of issues they would have made.
Do you think she still would have slept with Ray, and then it would have created like a rift between Ray and Charlie?
Maybe, because I'm not gonna lie, like the rift between Shoshanna and Marnie didn't. I mean,
It
which is
didn't
weird because
lead to anything.
no, and like it's weird because Marnie used to live with Shoshanna, so you would think that they're really close, but I don't really picture them as even knowing each other really. So it wasn't very nice, but it also wasn't the end of the world in that sense.
No.
Whereas Charlie and Ray, they were a lot closer, so it probably would have been more of a thing. How hot is the show? 1 to
Okay,
10?
4.
4. I'll give it a 6 only because ultimately there are a lot of attractive people on it who have sex a lot. And I feel like most of the sex scenes make you want to turn your TV off. But some of them, sometimes there's like something crazy that happens and you're like, wait, this is kind of actually a hot sex scene.
That's true.
Cool. What are we going to talk about next time?
We're going to do Friends with Benefits and No Strings Attached because
It's
they
basically
are
the same film.
exactly just with different
Fun.
actors.
Amazing. Looking forward to it.
Me too.
Cool. See you next
See
time.
you next time.
We just wanted to thank Close Up Culture for hosting us and thank you guys for listening.
If you want to leave us a 5-star review, we'd really, really appreciate it. You can also follow Close Up Culture on Instagram at Close Up Culture, all one word. And you can email us at sexysundaypodcast@gmail.com to let us know your favourite episodes or your favourite sex scenes.
Bye.
Bye!